All right, so we are at FantomWorks today, and we're gonna go talk to Chris about a parts order for a 1974 F250. Chris is our resident Ford guy. He has forgotten more about Fords than I will ever know in my life, so I go to him about all of these issues. Hello.
What's happening?
So, the 74 F250. We need to start the logistics on that.
Yeah.
I know you were supposed to be making a call to some of the vendors. Where are we at with that?
Well, I called Jeff's, and or Graveyard. I'm sorry, they changed the name to Graveyard. About the fuel tank, because I was going to just get the same thing we did in the 79.
Right.
So when I called him, I looked it up online first, and online it said except for highboy. And a 74 could be a highboy. Most of them were not. So I called up and I asked what the deal was, and he said that the highboys have a narrower frame. Ford narrowed the frame so they could put bigger tires on it.
Oh.
Yeah. So he said that the tanks, all the tanks they have are for the 36.5-inch center-to-center frame rails. That the highboys have a 33-inch center-to-center. And if that's the case, none of the other fuel tanks for those trucks will work.
All right. Well, let's go measure the tank and see kind of where we sit with that.
Yeah, let's go see if it's a highboy or not.
I think y'all will enjoy this truck. It's actually a really nice truck. It's really clean, and Chris loves it, and I'm actually excited to learn more about it from Chris.
Yeah, I was really excited when that truck got here.
Because you said it was originally a campered-style truck.
That's right, and it was one that was delivered to a upfitter. And an upfitter is someone who takes delivery of the vehicle even before the dealer does, and then make a modification to it. Ford Motor Company actually invented upfitting. They invented it for airplanes during World War II. Because every time they built an airplane, the military would come back and want to change it. And they were like, every time you change it, we have to change the line. So eventually, Edsel Ford came up with the idea, we'll build all the planes the same, and then we'll deliver them to an upfitter, and they can make the changes for each individual airplane that the military wanted. So in that style, Ford has always been big on upfitters. You see a lot of different companies, Shelby's an upfitter, Steeda, Stallion, all those Mustang guys, they're all upfitters. So this truck was delivered, and then it was converted into a camper. And you can see that the tanks that they had in the back were for the old camper. But the bad part about these old 70s trucks, and in 76, I think they stopped doing this. They thought that the safest place for the gas tank was in the cab. You can see it right there. And that may be the safest place for the tank, but it's not the safest place for the driver. Because what happened was these trucks would get hit in the side, rupture that tank, driver get trapped, and burn to death. That's why we always try to pull the tanks out of the cabs whenever possible. So that's where we're going with this one. We're taking it out of here because the driver, the owner of this truck, realizes the danger of having this tank in the cab. So with the highboys, they never put a gas tank in the back. So Ford plugged the hole from the factory because they use the same bed on highboys and non-highboys. So if it was a non-highboy, it had the wider frame and they could put the tank in the back.
You got it.
So we were hoping to reuse the hole that the truck originally had in it. This is an original paint truck, and we would do everything we possibly can to not cut holes in it. Because to match this paint, this is like really old lacquer paint, to match this paint would be nearly impossible.
Well, and it's a really nice truck. It's not super rusted out or anything like that.
No.
The interior of it is really clean. I'm not a Ford person, but I can still appreciate the truck for what it is. So let's measure the frame and see kind of where we're at with this.
All right, we'll put this tailgate up so I am about banging my head.
Like you just did?
Yeah.
I saw that.
All right, so it's the center of the frame to center of the frame.
Yep. And where are we at?
Oh, wow. This thing is skinny. Yeah, yeah. It's at 33 and a half.
Yeah, so unfortunately we have the smaller frame. So this is a high boy frame.
This is an actual high boy. Now, they didn't make a ton of these because they were really made for off-roading. That's why they made the high boy.
Right.
Was to have a higher center of gravity, and they could put a heavier off-road tire on it.
You Ford boys and your big tires.
Yeah, well, you know.
So I think the only way that we are going to get a tank for this is if we get one custom made at this point.
Yeah, I think that's our only option, is to have a custom tank made. Because I don't think a factory tank of any kind, I mean, I could like try to put one in there sideways or something, but that, you know, that's not really the way you do it.
That's just overcomplicating the build.
I think so.
But I think this is a great truck, a great specimen so far.
Hey, Audrey.
Yeah.
There's some comments from the peanut gallery.
Oh man.
Somebody suggests build a roll cage around the fuel tank. Around the fuel tank. I can't.
Building a roll cage around the fuel tank doesn't stop you from a fire. So
Right, and it also makes it a lot harder for firefighters to cut you out of the vehicle. A lot of guys put roll cages in street cars, and you got to remember, the firefighters are not really equipped to deal with a roll cage. That's why a lot of cars don't have them. So if you got a roll cage, get some quick release seat belts.
well, and nowadays your cars are made with specific crush points.
That's right.
It's supposed to buckle in certain spots. So adding a roll cage around it just kind of honestly complicates it a little bit more. Are there any other questions or?
Somebody else suggests an aftermarket fuel cell on the truck.
That's
Well,
kind of
fuel
what's in the
cells-
back already.
Well, fuel cells are not DOT approved. If you run them on the street, they are not DOT approved. They are made for racing applications. So they don't have all the fancy rollover valves. If you roll it upside down, a factory gas tank is made to plug the little vent hole so the gas doesn't run out. So the vent, you're trapped in it, it's upside down, and all the fuel's leaking out of it. Factory tanks are not made that way. Fuel cells are not made that way unless you custom order them, custom made with that feature in them. So if you're going to run a fuel cell on the street, understand they are not DOT approved. And in states like Virginia and California and places like that, they will not let you drive it on the road if it's got a fuel cell in it, period.
Can you tell he was an inspector at all?
What about a NASCAR style fuel cell?
It's same
it's,
racing.
Again, not DOT approved. And if we're putting stuff on the street, we have to put DOT approved. We are a Virginia inspection station. So we're doing it right.
Gas tank like out of a Chevy Suburban or a Blazer that mount in the rear.
That's right. And I looked at that, and most of those are a little bit too wide, or they have to be mounted sideways, or some of the guys are using Bronco 2 gas tanks. But everything I read on the Bronco 2 gas tanks, the guys have a lot of trouble filling them. And it takes a really long time to put 22 gallons in it. The one guy was saying like 25 minutes to get 22 gallons in his gas tank. And we certainly don't want to do that to anybody. We don't want anybody to have to go to the gas station, and stand there, click, because we've all done that, right? You start filling it, and the tank, it stops, you pull it out, stick it back in, go again. Well, if you have to do that like 20 times, that sucks. It does. Nobody wants to do that.
That's pretty much it. More on that. And somebody likes your hair.
Aw, thank you.
Nice hat.
Yeah. It's custom.
It's custom.
All right, so make sure you are subscribed to us on YouTube so that you can see all of the new stuff that we have coming out. This truck is not one of them, so we could give you a sneak peek on this, but we've got a lot of really cool stuff coming out. Some stuff that I think is really cute that Davey doesn't like me calling cute. But most definitely check everything out. One of my favorite parts about working at FantomWorks is what I get to learn from these guys. Chris and Dave are amazing, and the amount of knowledge that they have on everything. And we really get into that a lot more on this upcoming series. So make sure to definitely subscribe and check us out.